Welcome to our September 16th Lacey City Council meeting. Just up front, the mayor is unable to be here tonight, so I'll be leading the meeting. And please note that the council will be adjourning to an executive council meeting at the end of our business meeting to discuss a property purchase. And I'll come back into the business meeting to adjourn for the council meeting. Also, we need to amend the agenda to add under proclamations National Voter Registration Day. And so with that, let's join me in pledging the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Amen.
Um,
I would make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
and the consent agenda or not?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda and consent agenda. Is there any other additions or subtractions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, we have an agenda. Under public recognitions and presentations, we have our Lacey Youth Council report. It's going to be led by Mayor Justin Begley and Deputy Mayor Alejandra Linares. Are they on the line?
It does not look like they're on the Zoom at this time, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, with that, I will move on to the public comments that are not on the agenda. I believe there are 4 people that would like to comment, and then we'll come back, if it's okay with council, to the Lacey Youth Council report. Okay. So I have first up is Lynn Fitzhugh. Is she on the line?
Yes, she'll be joining momentarily.
Okay. And
Here.
please state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Greetings. My name is Lynn Fitzhugh. I work for Thurston Climate Action Team, staffing our tree action group, and I live in Olympia. I understand that I cannot testify about anything you are voting on tonight, and I will do my best to instead speak to some process and structural issues that I believe exist right now in Lacey. I was informed a long time ago by staff of the special role that the Planning Commission has in Lacey, different from some other local cities, that the Planning Commission is made up of citizens who study more deeply issues before the city, hold hearings with citizens, and then make recommendations to the council. I was told that because of that work, the council generally listens to their recommendations. For that reason, I joined with 16 other citizens who first testified before the Planning Commission when they held a hearing on the Urban Forestry Report. They and I heard compelling and passionate testimony. They asked so many questions that the commission wound up holding 3 meetings and engaging a lot with the staff before they made their recommendations to the council about that report. The staff also brought in information from 173 citizens that had filled out your survey that the Planning Commission aligned themselves with. Imagine my surprise, therefore, to discover that one council member who lives in an HOA can advocate a policy change that dismisses that entire process and all of those voices. That apparently one squeaky wheel is to be heard above all of the 73% of citizens who wanted something else. You have different kinds of zoning classes in this city, and your existing code addresses how things are supposed to happen for each zoning group. when HOAs are developed, there are agreements worked out with your planning department about how that development will occur. There is no reason why those agreements should be thrown out the window later. Your existing code covers how changes can happen later. So I ask council to have courage today to say no to making changes just for a squeaky wheel. Please respect the voice of the public that have come so strongly through in a variety of ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, and I forgot to make sure that you state that where you're from and also your city, and then unmute yourself when you're called. So next up is Nancy Winters.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nancy Winters, and I live at 5537 Libby Road, Olympia, Washington. That's my mailing address. It's in Thurston County. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you all today. I'd like to talk about the city's use and analysis of surveys, and to use the tree ordinance survey that you did about a year and a half ago as an example. So the city used its time and resources and that of its staff to survey residents about trees. As Lynn just mentioned, 173 people took time to respond to that survey. And yet their strong feelings on trees does not seem to be taken into account in relevant policymaking. For example, when asked about the level of protection of trees on existing property, the sum of responses A and B indicate that 83.3%, the vast majority of people, are not pleased with the city's protection of trees on existing properties. It is odd, therefore, that policies would be considered that weaken tree protection on existing properties. How does the council take into account the 161 passionate comments of the residents who wrote? And what can be learned from those comments? The vast majority of the people who took the time to comment, 73%, want greater protection for trees or indicated a strong appreciation for trees. Only 3% stated the desire to have restrictions removed so they could remove trees without restriction. Such an approach really caters to the minority. It seems that if the city wants to invest its time and resources and the time and resources of its citizenry in the survey, then the council should take the citizen views into account in policy and rule development. By the way, I just learned today that Seattle did a very similar survey and found 80% of participants wanted greater protection for existing trees. And I know that they will use that information in their policy and rule development. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Mary Ann Tompkins. Again, unmute yourself and state your name and city. Are you on the line, Nancy? Mary Ann? Yes, she is.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Tompkins, and I live at 1605 Lebanon Street in Lacey. So a year and a half ago, the Lacey Tree Task Force was formed, and I was asked to be on it. And that was March 11th, 2020. So we reviewed the UFMP, and I was really excited to be part of this because, well, I love trees and I like being part of my community and having a voice. And so a year and a half later, that's not what happened. And I'm really, really disappointed. And I got to tell you guys, I'm really angry as a citizen, as a resident. I feel like our voices are not heard. So there's not a bunch of HOAs complaining, and this is why it came up for review, was because of one HOA and one complaint. So I'm really disappointed. I don't even know what to say. I've written, I've talked. I just want to tell you that most people I know the HOAs feel like they have a right to do what they want to do, don't we all? But okay, you have an entire HOA that's residents. 90% of the time, and you know this, people don't say anything until after the fact. So trees come down, and after the fact, residents complain. Well, guess what? It's too late. And then what happens when boards change? Because they're constantly changing. It's too late. Those trees are gone. So, I mean, healthy trees, I've heard you got someone calling them a nuisance. What is that? They drop leaves, needles, sap, leaves. Oh gosh, you got to clean your roof, the gutter. So if that's the nuisance, and I'm talking just healthy trees, then we have a problem, because I can name a lot of things that are a nuisance to me, and I'd love to rewrite the rules on all of them. But anyway, I'd love it if you just left the UFMP alone. Most of the people, especially that live in HOAs, love their trees. And tree and vegetation protection and preservation, Lacey Municipal Code 14.32, read it. It has a lot in there about the benefits of trees and why we need to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think last up is Vina Villanueva. Are you on the line? And if so, unmute yourself and state your name and city and limit it to 3 minutes.
She's on mute.
Unmute yourself, please.
There we go. I apologize. My name is Vina Villanueva. I live in Olympia on 13th Avenue, but I own a business, the Academy of Aesthetic Arts in Lacey. I wrote a statement. So a Lacey councilman reached out to me and asked if I would give a statement about mandatory COVID vaccinations. I've chosen to speak up because I'm tired of seeing the bullying, the misinformation, and the loss of freedoms we are experiencing in this state and this country. I'm outraged and saddened that I live in a time when those in authority have the belief that they can violate rights given to citizens under both our state and federal constitutions. Governor Inslee and President Biden have mandated COVID vaccinations as a requirement for employment. These mandates are not in accordance with federal law code of federal regulations, Title 28, Chapter 1, Part 36.202, and Washington Law RCW 49.60.030 and RCW 49.60.215. Governor Inslee's mandate is the most restrictive of all 50 states since it doesn't allow for testing and masks. Only a licensed medical doctor can prescribe a medical treatment, such as a mask, COVID testing, or a vaccination. Requiring vaccination as a condition for employment under RCW 18.130.190 can result in being charged with and prosecuted for practicing medicine without a license. I have beliefs about the COVID vaccines, which are not true vaccines, and my beliefs of these vaccines that are available right now, and I will not get one. According to VAERS, which is the vaccine adverse reaction, I can't remember exactly everything it says, but this is their data from September 3rd of this year. There has been 1,494,463 adverse vaccine events, of which 14,506 are deaths. The CDC estimates that only 1% of adverse reactions are ever reported. Vaccination will not stop the spread of COVID because it mutates and can be transmitted to both humans and animals. With a 99.5% survival rate of COVID, mandating COVID vaccines is outrageous. There are numerous case laws which address employers can be sued for vaccines as a condition for employment. And I wanted to end it with a quote from President Abraham Lincoln. America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be destroyed. It will be because we destroyed ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Is there any other commenters that have not been listed? I don't think I saw any. With that, we're going to move on to, well, first of all, let's go back to the Lacey Youth Council report. Is our youth council online yet?
They were having some difficulties connecting. They're trying to join by phone.
Okay, so let's do our proclamation and then go back to that if the council is comfortable with that. So with that, let's start with Councilmember Miller to begin our official proclamation.
Whereas registering to vote empowers eligible citizens to exercise their right to vote on election day, and
whereas the city of Lacey is committed to strengthening democracy by encouraging voter registration and increasing participation in all elections, and
whereas civic-minded people and organizations have collaborated to establish September 28th, 2021 as National Voter Registration Day, and
whereas the goal for the 2021 National Voter Registration Day is to create awareness of elections and motivate eligible citizens to vote in the coming months, and hey, Lenny, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Whereas the strength of our democracy depends on the willingness of our citizens to participate by choosing those who will lead us and by voicing their opinions on important matters that will come before the voters on Election Day.
Now, therefore, I, Cynthia Pratt, Deputy Mayor of the City of Lacey, on behalf of the Lacey City Council, do hereby recognize September 28th, 2021 as National Voter Registration Day and encourage all eligible city residents to register to vote. And with that, we have Mary Hall, our Thurston County Auditor. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for recognizing National Voter Registration Day. You know, voting is the cornerstone of our democracy, but you can't vote if you're not registered. And last year, I'm really proud to say that we actually reached the 200,000 mark for registered voters in Thurston County. And voter registration has never been easier. We now have same-day voter registration. We can even pre-register 16 and 17-year-olds so they become automatically registered when they turn 18. And 2021 is the 8th National Voter Registration Day across the country, and Thurston County has celebrated it every single year. So your efforts today to help us increase awareness of the importance of registering and participating in the democratic process is really appreciated. And for those of you watching remotely, please know that registering to vote is really easy. You simply go to votewa.gov and follow the prompts. You will need your Washington driver's license or state ID card or the last 4 of your social security number to register online. But thank you again for your support and your partnership on this and so many other important issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So you heard it here. Go get registered. Thank you.
Of course.
I am still waiting for our youth council members to come online. It doesn't look like they're there quite yet. So I am going to move on, I guess, to our 2021 Comprehensive Plan Amendments, Ordinance 1599. And I believe Brian Andrews and Jessica Brandt are going to be presenting.
Good afternoon, Deputy Mayor and Council. Give me 1 second to be able to share my screen and then I'll get started. Okay, so this afternoon you have the 2021 slate of comprehensive plan amendments in front of you. There's an ordinance for your consideration that's in front of you this afternoon. So the 2021 comprehensive plan amendments included 3 different amendments, 2 new plans, as well as an update to an existing city plan. The first new plan that I'm going to talk a little bit about is the Housing Action Plan. So the Housing Action Plan is integrated into our housing element of our comprehensive plan. So upon adoption, this will actually be an appendix of our housing element of our comprehensive plan. It complements our existing affordable housing strategy and sets forth and complements actions that were identified in that. As part of the Housing Action Plan, a housing needs assessment was conducted, as well as a first of its kind landlord survey that informed the actions that comprise the Housing Action Plan. And it's important to note as well that the Housing Action Plan was coordinated with our cohorts at Olympia and Tumwater, as we do have one interconnected housing market. So the Housing Action Plan, as its name implies, sets forth a number of actions that the city can take to address affordable housing issues in our community. These are set forth in kind of 2 different buckets or 2 different columns. One is policies and the other is programs. Policies, it sets policies and implements programs that support all income levels, but really focuses on lower income and affordable housing. It's important to note that the city does not build housing, but does partner with those that do, and that the city has limited influence over market rate housing. So when we say we're setting forth plans and policies and programs regarding all housing types, the city's influence really is at the lower end of the market. Those that are getting subsidized housing or are part of housing programs. To meet the greatest needs, the Housing Action Plan sets forth a number of different actions that are categorized into these 7 different topics. Number 1 is to reduce the cost of housing for low income and cost burdened households. As I said, really the focus is on those lower income folks. Number 2 is increasing the inventory of housing. Number 3 is increasing the variety of housing. And then number 4 is making sure that we increase the stock of housing options needed for seniors. We have a community that is aging every day, and the housing needs of those senior citizens in our community are challenging. The next one is maintaining our existing housing stock, especially our rental stock, to make sure that we provide energy efficiency and air quality programs so that they remain viable housing types in our community. Number 6 is increasing our stable rental housing and pathways to home ownership. So also encouraging home ownership programs. And then finally, number 7 is increasing our permanent housing for people with disabilities or those at risk of or experiencing homelessness. The second of the 3, again, another new plan, is the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan builds on our adopted regional common targets to reduce carbon emissions in Thurston County and in Lacey. This is a framework that sets goals to reach those targets to make sure that we're meeting our adopted common targets. This document does replace our existing CR2 plan as an appendix to our environmental element of our comprehensive plan. So the city has had a CO2 reduction plan on its books for a number of years now, and this plan is more updated, it has more updated information and is more specific than previous plans. And so this plan will actually replace our existing CR2 plan. And like the Housing Action Plan was done, we partnered with our regional partners on this as well, including Olympia, Tumwater, and Thurston County. So there's, just like the Housing Action Plan, a number of policies and programs identified within this plan to reach our targets, including items that help green our energy grid, shifting our energy sources to other sources of energy, living lighter, storing carbon, building local capacity, and ensuring an equitable distribution of costs and benefits across our community. Finally, the Urban Forest Management Plan update. So this is the third of the three. This is not a new plan. This is something that's been on within our comprehensive plan for a number of years, but it is an update. We do like to conduct these updates on a regular basis. So just as a reminder, the Urban Forest Management Plan contains 13 goals and associated policies, a number of technical appendices, background and baseline information, considerations and forester recommendations, tree planting specifications, tree protection requirements for native trees, as well as identification and management of a street tree program and inventory. The Urban Forest Management Plan was last updated in 2013, so it's been about 8 years now since we've updated it. It was first developed in 2008. So it's been about 15 years now since we've had an urban forest management plan in Lacey. You heard some previous comments about the tree protection regulations dealing with HOAs. That will not be a part of this ordinance tonight. Those recommendations from the council will be part of a future action item under LMC 1432. So the major thrust of the update to the Urban Forest Management Plan was really looking at amendments to the goals and policies, setting a canopy coverage target for the amount of urban forest canopy that we have in Lacey, broadening and increasing the number of policies that we have on protecting, educating, regulating, and enforcing tree regulations in Lacey, as well as developing a comprehensive tree program, looking at more education and outreach when it comes to trees. So it's important to note that before you take action on the ordinance tonight, some background information that will be helpful here, which is the first is that each amendment had their own unique and significant public outreach initiatives. So I could go into details about each one, but as you heard with some previous comments, some significant outreach that was conducted on the Urban Forest Management Plan, as well as the other two amendments as well. Public hearings were held by the Planning Commission back on May 18th. The full record associated with those public hearings are a part of the City Council's review packet tonight. After holding those public hearings and after subsequent meetings, the Planning Commission made unanimous recommendations of approval on all three amendments, including some specific recommendations on the Urban Forest Management Plan update. The first of those would be for the council to consider budgeting for a full-time in-house arborist, which is better known as our tree protection professional, to manage a comprehensive tree program. The Planning Commission felt very, very powerfully that the City Council, even though the Planning Commission doesn't work with the budget, that they provide a recommendation to the council, who does provide a budget, that a full-time in-house arborist is a crucial part of establishing a comprehensive tree program. And the second part of their recommendation, as already discussed by the City Council at our last work session, is to establish a tree board. And that's been part of our existing urban forest management plan already. The tree board would act as an advisory board to the City Council on urban forest management plan type issues. So you do have an ordinance in front of you this afternoon to consider the 2021 comprehensive plan amendments as recommended by the Planning Commission. And again, as a reminder, the implementing regulations coming out of the urban forest management plan, those contained in Lacey Municipal Code 1432, will be considered by the City Council at a future date. So before I turn it over to you to make action and ask any questions, I did want to give some thanks to some folks. This is a significant achievement for our department and for our staff, and we couldn't do it without the help of a lot of others that have been involved. On the Housing Action Plan front, thank the staff that helped work on this from the cities of Olympia and Tumwater, as well as Thurston Regional Planning Council, who is our contractor on the plan and helped develop a lot of the background and baseline information that was made part of the Housing Action Plan. Also thank Donna Feliciano in our Public Affairs Office, who did a lot of the graphic work leading up to this, including the housing continuum that you saw in your last packet. On the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, thank our regional partners who were involved, as well as Thurston Regional Planning Council. On the Urban Forest Management Plan, I'd like to thank the staff at the city that also work on tree issues outside of our department. So that includes folks from our public works staff and our parks staff, including parks maintenance, that were crucial in providing some recommendations on what to do to update our urban forest management plan. Thank our urban foresters. We have 2 contract arborists that work for the city that advise the city on tree issues. I'd like to thank both Kevin and Galen for their work on the urban forest management plan. And then on the urban forest management plan as well, we did have a volunteer tree task force, and the tree task force was made up of a broad representation of the community, development interests, environmental interests, homeowners associations, and others. I'd like to thank them for their volunteer service on the tree task force. I'd like to thank the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission does a significant amount of work on behalf of the city. And the work that you see in front of you this afternoon is a significant portion of the 2021 work program for the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission does an absolutely thorough review of everything that's in front of you, and they provide thoughtful recommendations with significant public input. So we'd like to thank the Planning Commission for all their work that they've done for the 2021 comprehensive plan amendments. And then finally, I would like to thank the staff in our long-range planning department. So as it is, it's a very small staff, but very dedicated. You have such a small staff that does take on these large city initiatives. So I'd like to thank Jessica Brandt. Couldn't do it without Jessica's help, and she's been crucial in pushing these things forward. So thanks, Jessica, for all your work on these. And with that, be happy to answer any questions as you consider the ordinance that's in front of you.
Councilmember Greenstein.
So Ryan, first, thank you for all the hard work. And I know the amount of effort and time and work that goes into this is significant. So thank you. My question is, by implementing or approving the ordinance that's in front of us, it would approve adoption of the plan, but I want to make sure I'm clear on this. It doesn't necessarily obligate us to any of the actual policies or programs that are contained in them. Those are just the suggestions that we will then look at individually to move forward on or not move forward on. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the actions are essentially a menu of options, and the council will have other opportunities to consider each and every option that's available. So whether it's a policy or a program, so it'll be either implementing a policy or funding a program, and those will be in front of you in some form at a future date. So you'll have future consideration of each item as they come forward.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, Councilmember Stedman, do you have a clarification question? So before we vote.
I had one question, then I was going to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, please.
My question was, what was the vote on the Planning Commission on this plan? Was it 7 or 5-2, 7? Did it pass unanimously?
Yeah. So all 3 plan amendments were recommended approval unanimously by the Planning Commission.
Nice. All right. I would move to approve Ordinance 1599 to adopt the 2021 Annual Comprehensive Plan amendments as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion or just a thing, Bob? Anybody want to add anything? Councilmember Cox.
Well, I would like to add my thanks to the staff and the Planning Commission and all the citizens who contributed to this. As a former planning commissioner, I understand full well what goes into developing this. So thank you very much for your work. It really is recognized and appreciated.
Councilmember Stedman.
I'm just going to reiterate the importance of the Urban Forestry Commission. 16 years in the making. We're big enough, and this, tree protection and all that is warrants this to happen sooner rather than later.
So go ahead, Councilmember Miller, please.
what an amazing amount of work, Scott and the other department heads and everybody, promised us a framework, and they have delivered in spectacular fashion. Looks great. With us losing as much canopy as we've lost, according to the numbers that are in this report, over the last decade or so, we were at 43% prior, and now it just seems like it's dwindling. So, 100% in favor of recapturing some of that. It's hard to do such a thing and develop at the same time, create, new housing and new business opportunities for all the people that would like to live here and do business here. And it's a fine line to walk, and you guys are doing it really well. So thank you for all the hard work.
So I just want a clarification question. You mentioned that we're passing these 4 amendments, but on the tree or one about the specific rule for the HOAs and stuff, that's coming back to us later. Is that correct?
Correct. So there are no regulation changes that are in front of you in this ordinance. They're all adopting these plans into our comprehensive plan. So the implementing regulations specifically coming out of the urban forest management plan will be considered at a future date. Okay,
great. Thank you very much. With that, is there any more questions?
Yeah, one thing, Malcolm knew what we started at percentage-wise, but we're down to 28% canopy. So that's, right. 15%. So it's substantial.
I think the 43% was a little over a decade ago. Now in here it says 28%, and so I was just saying that
annually usually 1% annually. So it's a lot.
Okay,
maybe I can provide a little
an opportunity.
Let's have Brian Andrews speak, please.
I'll provide a little bit of background. So our previous calculation, that 43%, that was done as a manual tally. So that was done with an aerial photograph and literally somebody marking on a paper map what the tree canopy was. Our current, most recent 29% is a more accurate digital representation of our tree canopy. And the Planning Commission looked hard at that as well. They knew that was an issue. And so they're actually recommending that we keep this updated on every 2-year cycle when new aerial photographs come out to be able, this is a much more easy to replicate process, this new digital format for our tree canopy. So we will continue to assess our tree canopy. And if we continue to lose tree canopy, there's policies in the urban forest management plan that says we need to go back and revisit our regulations because we continue to lose. So I just wanted to make the council aware that even though it looks, like we've lost a significant amount, the methodology in which we calculate that has changed, and there's policies in there should we continue to revisit that, and should we continue to lose canopy, what the regulations might be opened up to take a look at.
Thank you. Councilmember Greenstein.
Ryan, just for clarity, I want to make sure I'm understanding that. So I understand the methodology has changed. So have we truly, can you really tell, have we really lost as much as it seems, or is that likely part of that due to the methodology change?
Staff feels that this version is much more accurate than the versions in the past. And so this is our new baseline. We don't feel like 43% was a good baseline. So that's why we're saying, let's go back. This is our new baseline. Let's take an every other year look at this and see how we're doing against this baseline versus the previous one, which maybe wasn't as accurate.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm taking one last question from Councilmember Miller, please.
Okay, I just wanted to check out a correlation or examine something just real quick. And I know we won't be able to get into the weeds on this, but we've created a lot of jobs in the past year or 2 years, and there are several more on the horizon as people are coming here to do business, and the northeast section is growing. I'm sorry, the northwest section of Lacey is growing, and so if in filling those jobs, we're also going to need housing that people in entry-level jobs will be able to afford so that they can live here and work here as opposed to live somewhere else and work here, because the amount of jobs that we're creating is outpacing our inventory with ease. And so I saw the housing action plan, and I didn't know, are we with what we've done, are we creating enough incentive for builders to come and potentially build smaller units, more affordable units? And how do you see that playing out over like the next 24 months?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we have, as a city, very little influence over the market rate. The market is going to build what the market can bear, in terms of, we have mass production builders in Lacey that build, a 2,400 square foot house. We don't have small builders that tend to build, 1,400 square foot entry level houses. So that's something that we're definitely going to have to work on, and maybe, find some unique solutions to is how do we get, folks to understand that there is that market. But again, it comes down to if the builder can build a 2,400 square foot house and sell it for a substantial amount versus a 1,400 square foot house that is just going to barely pencil out, they're going to continue to build a bigger house. So, there's very limited things we can do. What we can do is more on the economic development end. More family wage jobs, higher paying jobs will allow people to pay more for their housing. And so, that's another initiative, is making sure that we have more family wage jobs that can pay more so people can make more to afford more housing.
Thank you. With that, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor of passing these amendments of Ordinance 1599, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And right now, I noticed that Mayor Justin Begley is on the phone. So I'm going to go back to our report for the Lacey Youth Council. Mayor Begley, please.
Hello, thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Begley, and I'm here to report on behalf of the Lacey Youth Council. Tonight's going to be our third meeting at the Lacey Youth Council. Our last two meetings consisted of the ground rules and electing fellow members to positions. I'm going to read off the names of the people who we have elected for positions. For the climate issue project manager, we have Layla Markland. For the social media project manager, we have Ryan Hill. For the board and parks representative, we have Declan Line. For the library board youth representative, we have Sarah Town. For the commission on equity youth representative, we have Alanis Blackburn. For the historical commission youth representative, we have Nathan Miller. For the deputy mayor, we have Alejandra Linares, and myself as the youth mayor. I want to speak on behalf of the entire council, youth council, when we say thank you for this opportunity. It's a big opportunity for youth in our community to have a seat at the big table and to give our opinions and perspectives on many things within our community. So I thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Mayor Begley. We really appreciate being able to have youth on our council so that we can have them, bring them into what they consider as important in our community, because you're all part of our community. So thank you very much. With that, I am going to move on and let Justin get back to homework or whatever. So let's go to our ordinances. Ordinance 1600, 2021 budget amendment.
So thank you, Deputy Mayor and City Council. I get to play Finance Director tonight. Troy couldn't be with us tonight, so appreciate your tolerance of that. So you may recall we had a discussion with you that the microchip shortage that I'm sure you've heard in the news and the public has is also affecting even at our level of government. So we were informed by our basically wholesale purchaser. We buy our trucks and vehicles through the state bid process. and that if we were wanting to have any sort of guarantee to get vehicles for 2022, we needed to make a decision by the end of September. And so we are coming before council to gain the budget authority for 10 vehicles. 6 of those are scheduled for replacement and 4 additional vehicles. These are of the Ford manufacturer, which is most, I'd say, impacted by the chip shortage. The total amendment is roughly $593,311. And we need, by approving the budget amendment, we can then in good faith be able to inform our supplier that we have the means to purchase these vehicles if we order those. So I'd ask that you would approve the budget amendment through ordinance number 1600.
May I have a motion, please?
Yeah, move to approve the budget amendment.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing ordinance 1600, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So next up is ordinance 1601.
Well, good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of the council. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jen Burbage, Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation for the city. Before you tonight, council members, is a recommendation from the Park Board to increase the number of general members serving on the Board of Park Commissioners from 5 to 7. That would be accomplished through approval of Ordinance 1601. The board feels that more community representation would be beneficial. And also increased board membership would result in more diversity on the board, more expertise, which could benefit our department in planning projects and programs.
So may I have a motion? Council Member Stedman.
I have a question, but and then I'll make the motion. Was there any consideration to extending term limits or terms in general?
No, there wasn't discussion around that. It's the three. It remained at the 3 years for the terms.
All right. Well, I'd make a motion to increase the number of general members serving on the Board of Park Commissioners. Ordinance 1601, I think it is, right?
Yes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to pass 1601, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Can I ask a question after the fact
Yes.
that I just thought? Would this be both city residents and urban growth residents, or just city residents?
So it includes both. So the way it reads is at least 5, with the updated language, at least 5 of the general commissioners shall be residents of the city of Lacey. The remaining 2 out of the 7 may either be residents of the city or reside in Lacey's urban growth management area. And then it does go on to say, however, if a position to be held by a city resident has been vacant for more than 3 months, a 3rd commissioner who resides in Lacey's urban growth management area may be appointed.
Okay,
Nice.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So moving on, there's no mayor's report. And it doesn't appear that the city manager have a report. Scott Spence.
I do. I just have one report out, but Councilor Miller looked like had his hand up.
Oh,
I did. I know this is going backwards in the agenda, but I just had a question for Scott real quick about the vehicles. As we purchase new vehicles, then some of our older vehicles are going to be leaving the fleet. Is that right?
Yeah, some will typically be sold at auction, but if there are vehicles that can still be used for other purpose, we will retain those vehicles.
Gotcha. And sold at auction was the answer that I was looking for. So we're able to recoup some of those funds, put them back in the general.
Correct.
okay. So city manager.
So just a very quick report out. So again, as resolution 1067, I have the authority to sign interlocal agreements under $25,000 or no cost. We recently signed an interlocal agreement involving Thurston County, Olympia, and the city of Lacey. And this is to maintain the area called the Hub, which is the intersection of the Karen Fraser Woodland Trail and also the Chehalis Western Trail. So I think some council members there for the dedication. This is one of those unique areas where Olympia, Thurston County, and Lacey all converge at a point, which is the hub, is what's affectionately called by folks that use that trail. So we've agreed to maintain that area Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Olympia has it for Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday to take up grass or pick up trash, maintain the area, remove graffiti if there is. Thurston County does Mondays and also has other responsibilities as relates to the benches and other infrastructure. So again, this is a no-cost ILA. This is an agreement between the three jurisdictions to maintain that area on behalf of the public. So I just want to report that out as per Resolution 1067.
Excellent. Great. So thank you. So moving on, we appear not to have any standing general committee. So we're now back at boards, commissions, and committee reports. The mayor isn't here, so I'm going to move on to reporting out on my committees. And the Joint Animal Services Commission met Monday, September 13th. We had a number of items that we discussed. We talked about recommending the appointment of two new members, but one member, basically the licensed veterinarian retired, so we have to replace that member. And then as an option, we also have a nonprofit organization based in Thurston County with shared animal welfare priorities, and such nonprofit shall be selected by the members of JASCOM if the commission chooses to add that position. And so we talked about how to go about recruiting for the veterinarian position, and we're talking about going through Washington Veterinary Medicine Association and then getting a letter of interest and CB, et cetera. And we had a long discussion because obviously, except for our board president, none of us are veterinarians. And so we wanted to make sure that we could evaluate a good representative. And we decided to make sure that we had a veterinarian on the review board when we replaced that position. We went over our 5-year strategic plan and made sure we included a building feasibility study because the current facility is starting to have plumbing issues. And Sarah Hawk, our executive director, gave us an update on the new medical and surgical suite. And I'm putting those two together because we needed to amend our budget by another $20,000, so to $40,000 now to pay for plumbing. And once the project was evaluated, it was discovered the complex in general was not graded for the street based on current building codes. So we may be looking also at another 30 to 40,000 in the future to bring the whole facility up to code and repair plumbing issues. The medical and surgical suite with for the plumbing issue will probably go out for November. Will probably go out November or December. One good news is that Jazz received a micro grant for $5,000 from Best Friends Animal Society to develop an internal process for training needs. And then there was a couple updates, and Councilmember Miller, if I missed anything, jump in because I was gone for about a half an hour. But the cat remains found in the last month were due to a wild animal based on an autopsy done by a certified veterinarian, not from the former scare that we had last year with remains from a possible human mutilation. Adoption protocols were shared, the goal being to find the right home for the right pet. And then we had a summary of our retreat going over the SWOT analysis. And did I miss anything well, you, besides that,
No, I don't see any, the night drop. And I think a lot of it revolved around the testing and what type of testing and that kind of thing. So I don't think you missed a whole lot.
Thank you. So then our lot board meeting met on September 8th in the evening. And for our work session, we went over succession planning. Our business meeting included an update on the residual reclaimed water study. And out of 135 chemicals tested, only 2 were found to need further study as to human health risk. And if those 2 chemicals are in levels enough to trigger risk. We also, like 3 years ago, began a process of evaluating master planning needs. And we had an update on the current phase 2 of that which is focused on evaluating alternatives to meet lots' overall operational capacity needs related to conveyance, treatment, marine discharge, and reclaimed water production and beneficial reuse. We also adopted Administrative Policy 19 regarding a special disposition process for real property. And then we adjourned for an executive session on employee performance review. The Olympia Clean Air Agency also met September 8th in the morning, and we passed Rule 1.11, which is our annual federal regulation adoption date we need to do each year. We passed Resolution 280, which is a COVID-19 emergency mask and vaccination policy, which requires all staff to wear masks covering the nose and fully covering the chin when in the office or working in the field on behalf of ORCA, except when eating or drinking. And this mandate will be in place until the governor determines a mask is no longer needed or until the proclamation changes. The executive director is authorized to establish and maintain and modify work rules within ORCA requiring vaccination and or testing of employees for COVID. All employees must provide written documentation of their vaccination status. And then also, if you don't have a vaccination recorded, the unvaccinated must wear a mask and then be tested weekly. So let me see. And there's some other side things that go with that, but mainly it's on how they will pay for testing, et cetera. So we passed the commute trip reduction program, and we passed an MOU with Olympia for the recruitment of a new executive director since Fran McNair is retiring at the end of the year. And then air quality for Thurston County was good for July, despite losing 6 days of data due to the quality control monitor going down. And then for the month of August, we had 28 good days and 2 days of moderate air quality, with 1 day being lost when a spider climbed into the nethylometer at Mountain View Elementary. So I thought that I should mention that. Spiders can blow the thing out. So, and that's my report. Next up is Councilmember Cox.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm reporting tonight on last night's meeting of the Intercity Transit Authority. We hosted our first remote meeting with the authority and the Community Advisory Committee for Intercity Transit since the start of the COVID pandemic. We got our first look at the proposed 2022 draft budget. I think of interest to Lacey, we authorized the general manager to execute a consultant services contract with Iteris Incorporated to perform engineering and support services to implement transit signal priority and similar strategies consistent with the regional Smart Corridors project. We also adopted a resolution that implements the 5-year flat rate van pool fare structure demonstration project that I have mentioned previously. It takes a vastly complex fare structure and simplifies it vastly. We also authorized the general manager to execute a purchase order to SHI International Incorporated and an amount not to exceed $289,102, excluding tax, to implement and 1 year of maintenance, reporting, and hosting. We also got a few updates, and then I wanted to mention that staff is currently accepting applications for the surplus van grant program for nonprofit organizations. This is something Intercity Transit does on an almost annual basis when the vans used for the van pool program have reached their end of life or end of service life for Intercity Transit. We offer these nonprofit organizations a chance to apply for them. So the deadline to do that is October 13th. So if you're interested in your nonprofit, now you know. And the application packets are available online for that. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Greenstein.
Just one quick report tonight. Emergency Medical Services Medic 1 met yesterday. Ongoing discussion about transportation delays and overcrowding at the hospitals. I've informed you about that over the last several meetings. The problems continue. They do seem to be getting a little better at the moment, but we do have pretty full hospitals, close to capacity. So there's still some concern there. I informed you about the letter that Medic 1 EMS sent to the governor regarding the position that we're going to be in here shortly, come October 18th, when the governor's mandate for a vaccine goes into effect, because it will affect all of the fire departments and medic personnel, and will likely leave us very shorthanded and with difficulty to be able to fill all of the times that we need people. So we have about 75% vaccination rate amongst that group of people. That 25%, if they're not vaccinated by the 18th and won't be able to work, is going to leave us very shorthanded with, it'd be very difficult to have response at the level that we're used to for 911 service. So we've written a letter to the governor asking for some relief on that. The regional West Region EMS, which is made up of 6 counties, has also written a letter to the governor on that same topic, as have many other jurisdictions, with no reply at this point. And then last thing is, we looked at where we are as far as budget. Everything is looking good. It's a bit of a fluid situation right now on budget because the county has not yet made determinations on COLAs for this next year or the cost of health insurance, all of which come back to EMS, as EMS is only an advisory board to the county. So all of those employees fall under those county rules. So really can't finalize budget until we have that information a little bit later in the year. And that is my report.
Thank you. So next up is Councilmember Miller.
Okay. Lodging Tax Advisory Committee met yesterday. As you guys know, that we are once again accepting applications for people who would like to have their projects funded that will bring tourism and to the city of Lacey. We did have to make some changes to the application so that people understand that, if we continue on in a pandemic, that their project likely will not be funded, even if we approve it, if we are unable to gather publicly. So we did receive a lot of applications, and there are several of them, 12 of them, that we wanted some further explanation on, as there were, increases from previous years and or new stuff that we had not yet seen. We are in the middle of those presentations. We had 6 of them. We have 6 more to go. So after those 2 sessions, we will get together and talk about funding the projects for 2022. And so I'll be able to report that out to you next month. We also, on September 7th, the Lacey the transportation meeting happened, and we got an update on projects happening in the city. One was the 2021 overlay, Orion Drive and Willamette and Martin Road coming along. I think those are done. Crews working in some cases overnight to get those things done. We also had an update on the Slurry Seal project. A lot of you guys may live in some of those neighborhoods where they, got the signs out. Hey, get your car off the street. We're going to be doing the Slurry Seal, and of course, the design of that is to, to have our roads last longer and up our index numbers for those roads. Let's see, the Carpenter Road reconstruction is coming along. I don't know if you guys drive on that road. I purposely go down there to see how things are doing. It is one of the ways that I can go home, and the way it's coming together is looks like it's even in giving us a little bit more shoulder than we had before. And so if you have driven on those roads, they feel a whole lot nicer now than they did before. The Mullen Road improvements are by far my favorite project right now, as that whole area is looking a whole lot better. In addition to that, a whole lot safer for kids to walk to and from school. And so this morning I saw them torching down the what seems to be some of the final paintwork. The turn signs and the stops and all those kinds of things like that. I saw them torching that down this morning as I went through that section. The Capital City Water and Waste Phase 1 has a punch list that is almost complete. And so that is very exciting news. Phase 2 is about 40% on water and sewer. The Sister Standpipe is moving along really good and is scheduled to be complete by the end of this year. And so more to come on that. And then finally, the museum site cleanup is underway and moving along. That project, of course, in its very infancy stages. So we have quite a ways to go on that project, and I'll be able to brief you more as they make more progress. And that is my report.
Thank you. Council Member Stedman.
No report.
Council Member Kunkel.
I also have no report.
Okay, so with that, the City Council will now meet in executive session for a period of 15 minutes. So it is 5:08, and that would make it 5:23. Sorry about that. I'm trying to add with no food in my stomach. And to discuss real estate purchase pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, parens 1, parens B, and the council is not expected to take final action following the executive session. So with that, if we extend it, I'll come back in. And I will come back in and close the meeting when we're done.
Right. Thank you.
session until 5:30. And then I'll come back and adjourn the meeting at that time. So we're out of our executive session, and the regular meeting of no decision was made. The regular meeting of the Lacey City Council is now adjourned. And as always, keep it classy, Lacey. Goodbye.